Welcome to another episode of Talk Talk Punch. Thank you so much to both our audio podcast and our YouTube viewers for joining us. I am Brody, joined by Tudong Dylan.
Hey!
And the feral kid of these road warriors, Charlie Hickman.
They just keep getting weirder. Thank you.
All right, well, if you haven't already, we'd love it if you subscribe so that way you can come back here every Wednesday to hang out with us and see what we're talking about. Kind of like this week's topic, we're doing a review. I know, we just had a review about Ant-Man, which you can go check out. But now we're reviewing Creed 3 because these movies are actually coming to streaming. And some of us don't always get out to all the movies. So we got to wait for the streaming to happen. But then we say, hey, you know what? There's probably a lot of other people who also didn't get out to see it during the theaters, and they're waiting for streaming too. So here we are giving our review based on the streaming. So you can go see Creed 3 on Amazon Prime. It's a good one. Fellas.
You can also see Creed 1 and 2.
That's true. For a long time, those weren't streaming, and it was really frustrating. It was very frustrating. All right. So let's talk Creed 3. How'd you guys like it? Overall thoughts, and then we'll kind of break it down a bit and go through more specifics.
All right, Dylan, this was on like your most anticipated list, man. What? Take us through it.
Yeah.
I'll be really honest. All right, I liked what we got. I thought it was really good. I think Michael B. Jordan is a really good actor, and Tessa Thompson, excellent. Jonathan Majors. I was so looking forward to this, but I'll say this. This is the shortest movie in the Creed trilogy, and it really seemed like it was rushed. A lot of things weren't exactly as established as I thought it was going to be. Like in the trailer, it starts off with Adonis, and he's at a press conference. I'm assuming it was after his last fight or before his last fight, and we see his last fight at the very beginning, just about. And he's talking like about his life, and he mentions Rocky. The only time Rocky is really brought up, unless I missed it, was when he actually is like when Apollo gave Rocky a shot, when he's trying to convince the heavyweight champ Felix, I forget his last name, to fight Diamond Damien.
Felix Chavez?
Probably. Anyways. When he was trying to convince him to fight Diamond Damien, Anderson, who wasn't a contender or any of that other kind of stuff, he invoked Rocky, and as far as I know, that was the only mention of Rocky. We hear that when Adonis is giving the interview, when he challenges him for the heavyweight title, we hear he's been going around talking a whole bunch of smack, but we don't actually get to see any of that stuff. So I was like. He is? Like, I didn't hear any of this. Like, what happened? I don't know. It seemed for some reason like, because Michael B. Jordan is the director, it seemed like he was really rushing through things. And I don't know why exactly. Like, I wanted more of what we got, not less. Charlie, what did you think?
I think everything you're saying is fair. So I kind of powered these. So I hadn't seen any of the Creeds yet. I've been slacking, and they're all popping up on Amazon. And about a week ago, Bert's like, "All right, let's talk about Creed 3." And so I was like, "All right, I gotta watch Creed 1 and 2." So I made it through all three this week. So watching them back to back, maybe that's a little bit of a different experience than with like the years stretched between. But this had a very different tone than the other two, and it felt like it was really missing some of the heart and humor that and just missing Rocky, quite frankly.
Yeah, it really was.
We'll kind of get a little bit more into that. Look, if you're writing a Rocky movie or a Creed movie, you have like kind of like a built-in formula, right? And so, like, then it just becomes like the setup. How are we getting him into the ring? Like, what's the reason that he's going to box? And I thought of all the Rocky movies, barring 5, and all the Creed movies, this is by far the worst setup of a guy has not boxed for 18 years, has no professional fights, and in the year 2023, apparently in some alternate universe where people still are really into boxing, because like there's no to say, oh no, it'll be a draw because he's like an underdog. It's like so ridiculous. Now, maybe it's a draw if he's like a I don't know, an Instagram influencer that everybody hates and wants to see get punched in the face. But just having like a random dude, like, and apparently no other fighters in the world,
Yeah.
like in line to fight for the championship. It was just like a really like a bad setup. I have some gripes, and I don't want to be the old man griping about movies when we do these reviews, but I'm gonna be in some places. But I will say the cast did an amazing job. So my
Yes.
complaints are largely with the storytelling, but the individual performances, right on down through, like the young lady who plays the daughter, I thought she was
Yeah.
fantastic.
Yeah.
And just
Mhm.
yeah, so I mean, all the performances were really good. Is it Mia or Mila Davis Kent? I really should know how to pronounce names, but I don't ever hear them out loud. So forgive me, Miss Davis Kent. But you were, but yeah, the whole was really good. But there was some really, so like I think some large weaknesses with the story and some other things that kind of like kept it from being an upper echelon Creed / Rocky movie for me.
I mean, a lot of things came really too easy. I mean, you see his final fight, and like at the very beginning, and he ends it in the second round, and that's it. You see maybe a little bit of a cut on his like left eye or underneath or something like that. When Damien destroys the heavyweight champion of the world, he has no cuts or any injuries. And after the final fight, nobody has anything. Like, I don't know if you guys remember, but when it was Rocky, he was beaten to a pulp every single fight. He
Oh yeah.
lost to Clubber Lang in like 2 rounds, and he was beaten half to death. Whereas in this one, well, I mean, it just seems so everything, all of it's so easy. Even when he's training, the montage when he's training, it's just, and it's. I'll say this: I really like that part when you can see him and he has just been beaten down by Drago, and he's like thinking about different things, and he gets up. You see him's determination. I love the acting there, and then for some reason they raise the music and lower the volume of the dialogue, and he's talking to Drago, and he's saying like, "Yeah, come on," but we can't hear it, and I'm like, "Why can't we hear it? I want to hear what he's saying." That was some excellent acting, and let's hear more of it, or see more of it. And I don't know why they would do that. Like, we don't see what changes in his mind that now he's like ready to do this. It seemed like he was ready at the very beginning. It's like the two montages in Rocky 4, but he was determined in the first one, and he was really determined in the second one. But both of them, he was determined. We knew why he was doing it for Apollo. But this is, he just kind of suddenly is like, now I'm training better. Now I'm beating down this tree. Easier. It just seemed too easy. Bro, what did you think of it?
Yeah, I finished watching this the other night, and I was immediately like, okay, well, this is not as good as the other ones. And so I've been like stewing on this for the past couple days of like, okay, so why did I not like this as much as the other ones? And yeah, I think Dylan, you're right. Like, it felt so rushed. Like, through everything. I mean, we don't get a whole lot of boxing in this entire
Yeah.
movie. And like,
Yeah.
one of my biggest gripes with the movie was the final fight. We've been
Yeah.
building we've been building to this boxing match for 2 hours, and we get to the final fight, and we go like 2 rounds. They box for like 2 minutes, and then they go
Mhm.
into like the shadow realm, and they box through that. We don't get any like crowd noise, which I didn't like as much. And then we come out of the shadow realm, and they're like, and we're in round 12 now. And I was like,
Yeah.
I
It
want
wasn't
to
even a
see that
montage.
fight. I want to see that fight. Like,
And
don't build this all up and then
yeah,
make me miss most of this. And yeah,
give us a
maybe a 12
montage
round
of it.
fight.
Give us a montage,
Something.
and the choreography was really good. Like, what we saw was excellent. The only problem was that they didn't give us enough. I mean, like, it, I didn't understand his wife was saying how she's like, "Oh, you got to talk to me about it. We should open up and all this kind of stuff." And and then she turns around and she's like, "I never told you exactly how hard it was to stop performing." And I'm like, "Well, wait a minute. She's been was saying that he should be talking this entire time. Where did this come from? She didn't say this before. She didn't kind of like, no, well, no wonder he doesn't want to talk, because she's not talking either, actually." But I mean, when they were talking about it, I felt it, and I'm like, you guys should talk about it more. The part when Felicia Rashad's character passes away, I was like, whoa, that was really heartfelt. And then it was over.
Yeah.
Why was that? So I want to circle back to a couple things you said, Dylan. But since you just brought this up, why was that in the movie? Like what?
I have no
That felt like
idea.
so
Which part?
random and out of place. The mom dying, just like didn't
Yeah,
serve any purpose. It
we
didn't
didn't
charge
see.
anything emotionally. It didn't
Yeah,
motivate anybody. It was just like, well, we got like we need to add an extra like 5 minutes, and
it
we
didn't
missing
change
Rocky
the story.
for a lot of the story. We're missing Rocky, but it felt really weird that he wouldn't even show up to the funeral. Like they show him carrying,
Yeah.
Adonis carrying the casket, and then
Yeah,
like, but Rocky like isn't even he couldn't even show up for the mom's death. Like it just felt
Yeah.
so random to put that in. Like they're trying to capture a lot of Rocky 3 in this movie,
right.
where like, the bullies taunting him to come out of retirement, and we have the death
Hmm.
of an old beloved character and a training montage with like one of his former rivals, and it's but just like it was like so random and like stitched in. Like, what
Yeah.
if we get Felicia Rashad's character? What if we just kill her for no reason off screen and kind of unemotionally, and then on we go, and we don't really speak of it again after.
Yeah.
When he kind of blew up at her, and he was like, he was more of a brother than to me than your two kids, and I was like, are we going to see this interaction with them at the funeral? How interesting! Because I kept thinking to myself, he was like taken in by Felicia Rashad, and I was like, what about the other kids? We know that there were other kids, and they brought it up, and I was like, yes, okay, let's see this. They're gonna be at the funeral. There must be something, and I'm like, they weren't even at the funeral. Like, we don't even get to see that.
All right, Dylan, before we get too deep into this, because you're look, of the three of us, you have spent the most hours in the ring with boxing gloves on your hands, getting
Oh
punched in.
wow.
Uh,
This is
what
true.
you liked? So I was really kind of irritated with the choreography of like the end fight, because especially when they shadow realmed it, Brody. That was a nice coin by you. They
Okay.
were doing the full extension, like
Yeah.
arm, like straight arm, like just sitting there like flinging, like it might as well have been doing like one of these. I'm gonna get you, and then just swinging like full. Everything was far away from the body. It was like
Yeah.
these long, slow swings were just like, I'm not like a huge boxer or anything, but I'd just be like jab, 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 jab. While they're like doing this like Mike Tyson punch out video game like windups, they might as well have like done bull rush and then you just punch them in the tummy or something. Uh,
You're
I was
right.
I thought
There and not only that, but you're being really generous in the fact, because not only that, like there were sequences that were excellent, and I love the way Michael B. Jordan like does his slip and move and all that kind of thing.
Mhm.
Some of it I've rewound it, like the first Creed, that one take fight. Let's just say,
Oh, that
Oh,
was
like
good.
that
Ryan
was so
Coogler
good.
is an absolute genius, and it's no wonder that that's the best one by far. And that one take fight is genius as well.
Absolutely.
Some of the choreography in this was exceedingly ridiculous, but when they got it right, I really love the
That's
combinations
fair.
they were
Fair.
doing. But you were 1,000% correct. A lot of the things that he was doing, like in that first when he fought and won the title, well, first off, I was like, wow. Like when he took the mouthpiece out and Tooth came out, I was like, oh geez. Okay, yeah, all right, there we go. That's some Rocky stuff right there. That makes sense.
Yeah.
Um, but a lot of those things, that elbow, he would have been disqualified for right there. None of this 2 point deduction. That was ridiculous. They should have shown him paying off the ref or something like that, because the stuff that he was doing was shocking. But I love the fact that I mean, like he was fighting dirty, but I mean, as well, he just beat him up really, really easily. Yeah, all right, he knocked a tooth out, but it's not like he got pulverized like Rocky. I will say, it was his acting, the acting, Diamond Dame, when he was like, yeah, he's like, I got the title, right? What's up, bro? And he's looking at him and he's happy. This is exactly what he wants. He was dirty to get it. He did not do what he was supposed to. It was the wrong thing, but he was so earnest. And when Michael B. Jordan shakes his head at him, he just looks not devastated, but just like this is like the best thing right here. What do you mean? Like what happened? I was like, dude, it made me feel for him. Like, and I was like, it's you would never have won the title like that. That's preposterous. It was such dirty, ridiculous fighting. I was like, are you kidding me? But the acting was so good. I was like, come on, man. That's like, I
Well,
felt bad for him.
we'll get to characters. Let's kind of talk about
Okay.
the story a little bit. So the story we've kind of touched on it, some
A lot of it.
just
That double punch that they did was ridiculous. Let me just say I was like, come on, man. I know you like anime. And the last hit when he's slowly kind of going through and Damien like turns and folds and just falls on the ground like a cartoon character. I was like, I felt really bad for them. I was like, how much was he laughing when he had to do that? But yeah, you're right. The story.
The story.
Which was rushed. The story was rushed.
The story
They
was
didn't do
was
the-
was rushed. They
way
went through a
rushed.
lot of stuff. There's not a lot of boxing.
a lot of telling, not showing.
I feel like we're being critical, which is deservedly so. But like, I still liked the movie. I still enjoyed the movie. It's still something that I could go and watch and enjoy, especially if I'm going to rewatch the first two. Like, yeah, I'd rewatch this one.
And we're asking for more. I mean, we're like, give us more of this story. Give us a director's cut or something. Expand, and it would be better. It's not like we're saying like it's bad and we want no more of it.
So can I propose something to you guys? That
Okay.
this movie was like if someone was watching the first or second Rocky movies and thought, what if we told this from the perspective of Apollo Creed? And the idea like of the all Rocky movies, essentially, the heart of them is that Stallone found a way to turn Rocky into an underdog. Even though he was like the heavyweight champion of the world, somehow he'd still find a way to be like an underdog.
Right.
And then they really captured that nicely in Creed and even into Creed 2.
Yeah.
And then in Creed, he's the pound for pound heavyweight champion of the world. And if you're looking at this on paper, he's going up against someone who's actually older than him, has fought professionally in 18 years, has come out and had one professional fight. And you're telling me that Creed's the underdog. Creed, who has all the money in the world to hire the best trainers and the best facilities, versus the guy who, again, just got out of prison, one professional fight to train for this. The whole setup of the movie is like I'm supposed to feel like Creed's the underdog, but he's like rich and wealthy, has this amazing life, and good on him. He's like literally married to like a multi-Grammy gold record producing woman. They have a beautiful child.
Yeah.
Like his life is that's great. That's great, but there's no part of this that's like, wow, look at that scrappy, go get him underdog. Except for like the villain guy who's like desperately trying to like have a life. And then, by the way, the boxing legacy that he's having, he's supposed to be the pound for pound, the best fighter in the world, and he goes 12 rounds with a guy with one professional fight. I mean, he barely beat Ivan Drago. I mean, this guy's not exactly the best. I don't know. I know we're taking some dramatic license to overthink things. But all movies are flawed, and the more into it you get sucked, the less you care about the little things that don't make sense. And so all Rocky movies, you could sit there and you could just make these little comments and be like, okay, this is all ridiculous, because it's all ridiculous. Really I was less sucked into this one. So so these things were standing out to me as more like glaring stuff. Like it just the first time where I'm kind of, am I rooting for Apollo to lose? Am I rooting for this guy? He seems like he's sure like some of his shady tactics to get there, but they're trying to make him seem like a villain. I don't know. I'm kind of rooting for the guy who lost 18 years of I'm kind of rooting for him. He's the underdog.
Yeah, it's true. Not only that,
and it was interesting. It was interesting throughout this movie because Creed was like a jerk through most of this movie. Like he really did kind of a heel turn. Like all of a sudden he's snapping at his wife. We find out that like he is just like like refusing to tell her about huge portions of his life. And I'm like, God, they're kind of making him unlikable in this movie. And I struggled with that some because I went through the first two rooting for him, and now I'm like, oh, but he's kind of a jerk. And
without Michael B. Jordan's charisma, I wouldn't have liked the character. And not only that, I didn't understand exactly. They didn't make him seem broken down at all. They made him seem continually in fantastic shape. when you
Yeah.
saw they finally show us like an X-ray of his hands, and they're like, and I'm like, when did this ever happen? I don't
Yeah.
remember one scene in any of the other movies where they're like, you just broke your hands, bro. It sucks, and it's gonna be terrible
And
for the
the
rest of this
X-ray,
boxing match.
the X-ray,
Yeah,
his fingers are like bent all out of shape, and then like the next
yeah.
scene,
I
he's
was
like,
like,
"Oh yeah, I'm good." I'm good.
I'm fine. And he's sign languaging the entire time. It's not like they
Yeah,
could have shown him like having
yeah.
trouble sign language, like
Yeah,
the
really
arthritis.
drawing
None of
attention to
that.
those 10 working fingers for sure.
I mean, he seemed fine. They kept saying, "Oh, he's old, he's out of shape," and I'm like, really?
He was in phenomenal shape. He
He
was
was
in
in
the best
shocking shape.
shape that I think he's ever looked.
Yeah, he was looking huge. I mean, by
Yeah.
the end, but time, I never got like he's an old man, he's broken down, he's out of shape. I'm like, this is a young scrapper right here. He's got it still. Come on. They didn't
Yeah.
show us. They really it was too surface for me. It was just too surface. I wanted more.
Yeah. I think they either really needed to commit deeper to the retcon of like really involving his past and like, okay, we're gonna really lean into this and make that like a part of the story instead of giving us small little fragments, kind of like just randomly dropped in throughout. Like just really do it and make
Hmm.
that a huge part of the storytelling that we're doing here. And or just like have it be like an up and coming like just make it go full Clubber Lang
Yeah.
and have it be like
Yeah,
the end of his
yeah,
career and there's like a young guy doing his thing and look that's boxing, right? Like let's ground it in a
that's right.
more
Yeah.
reality that there's like actual like talented up and coming fighters because like I think there's a common misconception. I one of my favorite tweets was like some guy saying that in the Olympics there should be like an average person trying to perform these tasks just to have like an idea of how difficult they are. Just to, like put like me
Well,
out there for like the 1500-meter or whatever, and just everyone's finished and still like halfway, and I'm just dying. Watch Dylan try to pole vault. Just to get an idea of like how difficult it is to perform at these world class levels. I still think there's a whole segment of people out there that think boxing is just like being tough and hitting hard, and it's just like it's the sweet science, and it's like so hard. It's like such a technically profound sport that just like the idea that someone could just, I used to be good 18 years ago, so let me put some gloves on, and now, the best in the world, I'll just
Oh,
take him down, no problem. Like it's like such a like out there premise. I don't know. It just it's right
piggybacking
up there
on
with
that.
the rookie of the year guy breaking his arm, and then suddenly he can throw 100 miles per hour. Like I couldn't get it even as a child. I was like, give me rookie of the year. This is stupid. Get out of here. I couldn't enjoy the movie.
Piggybacking on that. Now they started to kind of do it with Rocky Balboa because in that we get a cameo from Mike Tyson, but they never brought up any of the real sports figures in all of Rocky, and that's because a lot of the characters are based on real sports figures. Apollo Creed was heavily based on Muhammad Ali, and he had a long track of defending his title for a very long time. And then they broke it down, and they had Creed give Diamond Damien his dad's ticket to the Rumble in the Jungle, which was
yeah.
Apollo Creed and um,
George
uh,
Foreman.
George
George
Foreman.
Foreman.
That's right. Yes, George Foreman. And I was flabbergasted when I saw that. I was like, how exactly could the Rumble in the Jungle have happened when Muhammad Ali was probably the long reigning champ at this point in time? Rocky never fought Muhammad Ali, neither did Apollo Creed, neither did anybody else. And he would he
Yeah,
been the
that was
champ?
weird.
Like it just broke up. And then they even brought up Don King. He's like Don King over there. But what about Washington Duke from Rocky Five, who was based on Don King? I was like, it just broke too many like rules right there with that. I was like, why did you do that? You didn't have to do that. He should have said like, oh, look at him over there, like Duke Washington or something. I would have been like, hey, for Rocky Five.
And
Do you?
maybe this. Sorry, go ahead, bro.
Oh, I was just gonna. Do you guys think that having Rocky in this movie would have helped it?
I think that you would have had to make changes to the movie to fit him in.
Yeah,
Like if you just take this movie exactly as it is and just kind of drop Rocky in places, I don't think that the movie gets better. I mean, you have to
yeah,
change
yeah.
the story around a little bit to help him.
Sure.
Like why is Rocky in his for this fight? I mean, there have to be some kind of reason for him to be there. But if you tell me that his mom dies and then Rocky comes back and then and maybe Adonis is in a really bad place, and Rocky's kind of helping him coach through that, or heck, even have Rocky come back and die if you're never going to have him be in another movie. Give him, but his exit in Rocky 2 was really beautiful, so I take that back. But
In Rocky 2?
and Creed 2, excuse me, Creed 2.
That's true. That's true.
Sorry, Rocky in Creed. It's weird, man. Look, all this. Apologize. Every time I screw up Rocky or Creed from the movies, just everyone has to drink.
Okay.
But I would have liked to see him. I would have liked to try. I know
Yeah,
there was a lot of creative differences, and Stallone had some quotes about what he thought of this movie and stuff like that.
And also a dispute with the producer, or Winkler, something like that. And he something about the rights, all that kind of a thing. But
Yeah,
all of that is just too bad.
Yeah, he said, "I wish him well, but I'm more of a sentimentalist. I like my heroes getting beat up, but I don't want them going into that dark space. I feel like people have enough darkness," and kind of talked about like the thing. I I kind of read that after the movie. I don't know that the movie got real dark, so I'm not really sure exactly like what he's talking about, but I do maybe agree that it wasn't like a very sentimental movie. I think that's fair to say.
Well, and I think maybe he's just talking about Apollo kind of having that heel turn of
Yeah, maybe.
You mean Adonis?
Yeah.
Adonis.
Drink.
Did I say Rocky?
You said Apollo.
Apollo. Oh,
Drink.
Maybe he talks about Adonis. I should just say Creed. Adonis kind of having that heel turn and kind of like what I was talking about of being a jerk to his wife and yelling at her, and just
Michael B. Jordan's pretty charismatic, and that goes a long way.
Yeah, he's really talented. And
all right, let's talk.
They got to play him. Look at him.
Yeah,
last
he
thing
did.
with the story, I'll say is this felt like if this was the only movie I'd seen, if I hadn't seen any of the Rockies and any of the Creeds, I probably would have liked this a lot better than I did. And it almost has like that feel of like when you've been watching a TV show for a few seasons and you've really fallen in love with the characters and the storytelling, and then they change showrunners and they change like maybe like a Community season, where suddenly there's a new showrunner, new writers in, and all the characters are acting like themselves but different. Like season 7 of The Office or whatever. It's like, wait, all of a sudden the cameraman's coming out from behind the camera, and if maybe that was your only exposure to the show, maybe you wouldn't think it was bad, but you're like, this doesn't make any sense. Like, what are they doing? It's like they're writing this without a love of what came before it or a knowledge of what came before it. And that's kind of what it felt like to me. Like maybe this is not a bad movie. It's a fine movie. Don't get me wrong, it's a fine movie. But maybe I would have liked it better if I just didn't have any connection to the other ones, versus like me wanting to kind of. I have that nostalgia. I wanted to see that carry into this one. But on we go.
No, that makes sense. All right, let's talk about the characters some. So how did you guys? And we could talk about like the actors as well. I know I like Jonathan Majors. I thought he did a good job. He plays that like, and he did the same thing in Ant-Man, where he's got this like gentleness and the soft spokenness to him, but then he kind of like can flip on a dime. And
very unpredictable.
Both he and Michael B. Jordan were just in phenomenal shape. I mean, they were.
Oh yeah, definitely.
Like when Jonathan Majors first takes off his shirt for that first fight, you're just like, holy smokes, that dude's ripped. I mean,
yeah.
I did. I was gonna say I did kind of laugh a little bit, and I don't know if it's like a totally real thing, but his boxing stance, where he had his arm like down the whole time, I was like, is his arm injured? But then he would jab with it. And
it was exceedingly unorthodox, as well as
very strange. And then
like it was down and then way back up.
That's
a way of doing it.
His blocks were like that. His arm was like that. And then the whole time throughout the last fight, he's doing this thing. And I was just like, he looks like a Punch Out character. Like, I mean, he's got like
he really did.
I mean, it was funny.
Yeah,
but I think he
was in phenomenal shape, but I don't think he didn't really sell the boxing part as well as other people have.
The combinations that were really good, but the style is what I didn't care for. I didn't like that his arm being down either. I thought his arms should have been way up, especially if he was going to have a peekaboo style. But when they were really doing the combinations of going back and forth, that was really well done. I've got to say, one thing when it comes to like like over the Rocky movies, like the choreography, they stepped it up into more realistic, because I mean it makes sense that they looked as beat up as they did in Rocky, because a person would have been beaten to death with the way that they fought in the first Rocky movies. Like they would have been beaten. They beat each other to death. Yeah, a lot of headshots. There was a lot more of realism. I'm not saying it was realistically done. I'm just saying there was a lot more realism in the Creed movies when it comes to the actual boxing. I mean, I'm not saying the epicness, and I'm not saying it's the severely like be all end all of fights in all of the series, but they did step up a lot. I mean, like Adonis's style of slipping and moving is really good, especially in part 2 when he's fighting the final fight with Drago. That was really good. I really was. I was hoping for so much more, though. I really was. I bought the strength of Diamond Damien, but I didn't buy a lot of the other techniques. I was like, nah.
He would do this like Happy Gilmore run jump punch from time to time, where he'd like the bell would ring and he's like coming out of the corner and then he's kind of like doing like these like jump punches like a superhero fight. He loved to punch shoulders, like no one had ever thought of punching shoulders in boxing before. He's like, I'll just punch this guy's shoulder. It'll be great.
I mean, it's not. You shouldn't like. Yeah, no, it's.
Dylan, you're
So
the
what did you guys think of? What did you guys think of
That's-
Jonathan Majors though?
I thought he was really well done. I loved the acting all around. I liked his character. I wanted to see more of it. I wanted to see him be more of the menacing part, because we just see that one part where he's has his heel turn on the bonfire on the beach, and then we kind of get a montage of him training and that one scene where he gets challenged for the title. But I mean, I wanted to see more of that, not less of it. They're like, but I thought his performance was fantastic. Give me more of it. Give me more of the performance.
Yeah, he was really. I thought he did a really good job. All my complaints would be like story related and not performance related. I thought he delivered a good performance. I mean, look, I had some issues with some of the boxing stuff, but
Which
I'm
makes sense.
not a professional
Makes
boxer, so I can let that slide off like, real quick. I mean, sure, have I beaten Dylan to a pulp in the ring before several times? Of course. He doesn't want these hands; they're too fast. But I'm just saying,
way too fast.
I did think the ending scene between them was like kind of odd. It's like the classic men would rather have a heavyweight boxing match than go to therapy kind of thing. Like just like they could have had like one conversation where Adonis is like, "Hey, you know what? That was kind of a jerk move, me like totally ghosting you and not visiting you in prison for like 15 years. Like sorry about that." And he'd be like, "Hey, you're right." It's like they couldn't quite decide if they wanted to make him a good guy or a bad guy. Like they made him seem like a good guy, and then they kind of tried to give him some villain characteristics, like he punches him at the beach and he kind of like I guess he had Drago's hand broken, but then also he's like I'm not so bad.
Well, I had heard
it's like they commit.
Yeah. I had heard that Michael B. Jordan wanted to kind of make a universe that kind of could branch out of this, and so maybe they want to kind of have a Dame like spin-off movie where then he can be the good guy or something. I don't know. I don't
understand. Like they've got to have some bad guys in the universe. The Dragos apparently are no longer bad guys anymore, and so like Conlan's no longer really a bad guy. Nobody's a bad guy. Like give us a bad guy. We used to. I mean, Clubber Lang, as far as we know, is still a pretty bad guy. We haven't heard from him since, but he's bad. We don't need everybody to turn good. Drago didn't turn good till several movies later.
Yeah, there were rumors that the third movie was going to be Clubber Lang and his kid coming.
Yeah.
Which I think I'm kind of glad that they didn't do that, because they just did that with the Dragos. But
yeah,
that would have been too much.
Everyone keeps coming back and having a kid. What they could have done is when in Rocky 2, when they found out that his wife was pregnant, they kill off Adonis Creed. And then a third generation of Drago and a third generation of Creed.
So you mean in Creed 2, not Rocky 2?
Yep.
So you gotta drink.
Gotta drink. And in Rocky 2, they just keep repeating Rocky 4, Creed 2 over and over again.
Yeah.
The Halloween series did it. There's like 3 Halloweens.
Just like a curse on the families that a Drago will always kill a Creed in the ring. Like, well, Sure, my all
Again?
4 of my ancestors died at the hand of a Drago, but it'll be different for me. This is my time.
All
Thought he
right,
was gonna, I
so
was like, you can't kill him.
so if you guys had to rank these movies, how would you rank them?
I think it's
And
very
why?
easily 1, 2, and 3. And let me tell you why. I don't understand exactly how Ryan Coogler got me to care as much as I did. Like when I first saw it and I saw like Creed like running over to the to the gym, to Rocky, and the music is swelling and all that, and the like the motorbike guys are going along. I was getting choked up. I was like, "This is fantastic." That one take fight is
Oh,
excellent.
so good.
Um, so that's why number one. Number two, I was very impressed with how they kind of like. I mean, they really beat Adonis in that first scene. He deserved to go to the hospital. I felt terrible for him.
Yeah, the
His,
eye
his
thing,
eye.
the
Yeah.
tap in the neck.
Oh,
I thought that was a nice touch.
Oh, in the first one, yeah.
Yeah.
That was when he was trying to prove it. But I mean, that was like I said, that was really good. I don't know exactly how ethical that is for him to be cheating like that, because he'd be going out there with one eye, which is hey. But in two,
Hey.
he just gets beaten. I loved that whole thing. I loved Drago coming back. It didn't have exactly as much as it did in it didn't have what it part one had. Like part one, Stallone got nominated for a Best Supporting Actor, and I'm still upset that he didn't win that. So I mean, he completely deserved that. I mean, he gave
those
speeches
sirens are
when he was
on
talking
our
about
outside.
Adrian.
If anybody's like listening on the
I
audio,
I promise I didn't do it.
The
But
sound effects. Okay.
yeah, I mean, he was nominated for Academy Award. So I mean, and the second one, it was really well done, but it didn't have that Ryan Coogler effect. And so number three would be obviously number three because it didn't have either one of those. It didn't have the heart. It didn't have the depth. It didn't have the story development. It had really good performances. It really did. What about you, Charlie?
Charlie.
Yeah, I agree, and it kind of like like I really liked the first Creed. I was like
Yeah.
when the only thing I kept thinking was I was watching this is why haven't I watched this already? This is so good.
Right?
And I really thoroughly enjoyed it. There's that's I was lost in it, so like I wasn't feeling real nitpicky. It was great.
Yeah.
And the second one, I didn't know anything. I didn't know anything about the second or third ones before I watched them. So I was surprised to see Drago show up and Drago's kid. And I gotta admit, like I was like, really? We were doing this, but by the end, I was like, yeah, and it sure the fight had a little bit of that old Hulk Hogan wrestling thing where there's no way Hogan's gonna win now, and they're holding up his limp hand, and 1, 2, and then the 3, and and that was Hogan. For some reason, getting beat in the face for 10 minutes made him stronger, and he finishes the fight. And so sure, there's a little bit of that, but by the end of Creed 2, I'm standing up in my room and I'm shadow boxing a little bit. All right, come on. Both Creed and Creed 2 had that kind of like by the end, I had that adrenaline. Like, all right,
Sure.
who am I waking? I'm gonna wake up the wife and we're gonna shadow box. Let's go. And then by the
She'd
third one,
knock
I was
you
like,
out.
this kind of ended. So it didn't have that it just kind of felt like a little bit of an exhaling balloon. It's like just didn't have that same kind of energy. So for me, 1, 2, 3, pretty easy, and that's kind of where I'm at.
Interesting.
Now you see why I had this on one of my most anticipated, and why I was so let down, because I was like, I'd seen all of them, and I'm like, come on, like this is gonna be great. Road, what about you? Is you same ranking?
So I've actually been thinking about ever since I finished watching the third one. I'm like, okay, how do I rank these? And I think that 1 is the better movie, but I think I enjoyed 2 more.
Oh,
And I think
interesting.
it's 1, you kind of get the origin story, right? Like, and
Sure.
when 2, you're coming in and he's going and he's pro and he's got championships and we just kind of like go right into the action. It's almost
True.
like a Batman Begins and Dark Knight. Like Batman Begins, yeah, you watch him, you watch the adversity, you watch all this stuff, but like Dark Knight, you go and he's Batman. And I kind of got that sense. And I'm also a sucker for the old Rocky Four. Like I love Rocky Four, and
Yeah,
so to
yeah.
have that, I was like, yeah, and I felt really bad for
Cool.
Drago when his mom got up and just like walked out on him again, and I was like,
Yeah,
oh, poor Drago. And so I think that like
Humanizing for sure.
yeah.
I think I enjoyed two more, but I totally understand that like I think that one is a better made movie. And I
Yeah.
can go back to that one take fight like and like it's not even just the fight, like you're starting with Stallone's like promo, like pep talk all the way
Yeah.
out to the ring, through the fight to the end, and it was like I don't know how you did this. Like it was
Yeah.
amazing.
Yeah. He
Amazing.
gets hit and there's a cut above his eye on his eyebrow. I was like, where did that just come from? This was a one take thing. How did they do that? That's movie magic right there. That
Yeah.
man has got like Ryan Coogler's a genius. I don't know how he did that.
So I think if I'm just going off of my personal preference, I think
Right.
I'm gonna go 2, 1, 3. But like 1 and 2 are so close, and
Yeah.
I understand
Makes sense.
one is a better made movie, but I think I just enjoyed two a little bit more.
Yeah, I
There you
think
go.
the montage into the you got to have the training montage. That was
Oh, the
Yeah.
montage in two
for
is
me.
so good.
Training montage was weak,
Really was.
but I love that training montage in two was that was nice. It was
Oh
good.
yeah. All right. Do you guys have anything else to add to this before we wrap this up?
Oh, that's it.
I think it's a challenge like from a storytelling perspective. So if if you're meeting a new couple for the first time, so you're going out with another married couple, the first questions that tend to get asked are like the get to know you questions. How did you two meet? Tell us the story of like, oh, how did he propose or how did she propose? How did tell us about the courtship? And now I'm at a point in my life where people are like, oh, if I'm catching up with an old friend, they're like, oh, what have you been up to? And I'm like, well, the same day endlessly for like the last few years. And in the most loving way I say that, because it's with kids you get trapped in this real stasis where like your life's really not about you, it's about your children now. And so like the storytelling changes because it's no longer like you're no longer the main character, if that makes sense. And I do think when movies are continuously going from the same like family following, the story of the courtship there with Adonis and Bianca is a heartbeat of the story. And then you go into the second one, and it's that really sweet, like, how do I tell her how much I love her and want to propose to her? And you get to see that. And then in the third one, it's like they're trying to like invent drama between the two of them over like simple
Yeah.
conversations that they definitely would have had because a kind of intimate relationship. And then they had this wonderful daughter. I think they could have leaned into that a little bit more and really made
Mm,
daughter more of the focus point of the family side of that, because
yeah.
that's really kind of how our lives transition. Now all my best stories aren't about me anymore. They're all about kids. All my best stories now are all about my children and how wonderful they are and how much I love them. I'm a completely uninteresting human being now. But I've got funny stories about Dylan and Denny's and all that good stuff from the past. So I just think like progressionally, I would have loved more of the daughter and more of like the father daughter stuff. I thought that was like the heart, like they could have really leaned, and really maybe he doesn't want to fight because he loves his daughter so much and she's fighting. They could have done explored that a little bit more. But anyway, I was just thinking about that as I was watching all three of these in quick succession. I was like, oh, it's like my life, except I'm not rich and I don't box.
Yeah, I agree, Charlie. And maybe even with like part four could have done that. I wouldn't have minded like one more Adonis in his prime movie.
Oh, sure. If they had gone a
Right,
different direction and he
right.
wasn't retired, absolutely.
Hmm.
Adonis in his prime fighting, and there's so many stories there because it's boxing, right? You got all
Yeah.
the up and coming
There's so
fighters.
many stories.
Like, come on now. When the three of us write Creed 4, it'll be good.
All right. Tudong, you want to add anything?
Sorry.
Your,
I
your
mean,
most your most anticipated movie of the year?
I it, I wish it was better. I really do. I love the performances. Like I said, yeah. And I mean, like they also didn't exactly build up. I mean, I wasn't really afraid. For some reason, I wasn't afraid that Diamond Damien was going to be injured by the heavyweight champion of the world after his no professional fights. I was like, I wasn't in any way thinking like, oh, he's gonna beat up this old man. Not once. And I like, I wish they had expanded things. I wish they'd done another couple of another couple of drafts on that screenplay expanded. And
Like he retired.
or
Doctor said it's one more concussion and he's gonna like lose memories or something.
yeah, give us some
Up the
stakes as
stakes.
well. Give us the steaks. Beef steaks. Other than that, I mean, I really I enjoyed it. It's a good movie. Yeah.
All right. Well,
Bro,
there you go.
what about
What would you guys give it out of 10?
I feel like a 6.
Yeah, like a 5.9.
I was going to go 5.5.
Oh,
Wow.
Brody, you know
It's
what?
still Michael B. Jordan and Jonathan Majors and Tessa
It's still a
Thompson.
good movie.
We've
Yeah, I
only done
know.
2 of these, Brody, and you spend the most time being positive out of the 3 of us during the reviews, and then you always give the lowest score at the end.
That's true. That's true.
I think I gave it the high. I think I gave Ant-Man the
it a-
highest score.
Did you really?
Maybe.
I don't know if you did that. I don't know if you did
I
that.
think so.
Hey,
Maybe
only
I
one
did.
way to find out. Make sure you check our Ant-Man out, and then
Yeah.
go to the end
All
there
right.
and tell us what Brody did.
Charlie, go ahead and wrap us up.
All right. Well, I hope you enjoyed us talking some movies here. We'd love to hear from you. Give us your thoughts. Maybe you loved Creed 3. Maybe you were lukewarm. Maybe you hated it. Fire off in the comments your opinions. There are no wrong opinions here. We're just talking. It's just preference. So let us know what you think. And we'll unless you're saying this is the best of the Creeds, in which case then Dylan's gonna argue with you in the comments. But let us know. Are you doing the move, bro?
Yeah. Blocking.
All right.
The blocks.
Hey, if this video gets 10 likes, then Brody and Dylan are gonna recreate one of the scenes from one of the Creed movies. So make sure you smash that like button, and they'll do a shirtless version of one of the Creed boxing. We'll see you next time.
In the Shadow Realm.
In the Shadow Realm.
Jeez. Oh wow.
Bye.
Yeah.